Welcome to the show. Last week, authorities uncovered malicious software believed to be tied to a Russian hacking group with a computer that belongs to Burlington Electric, one of Vermont's electrical utilities. Ken, if Russia can penetrate the grid in the United States, what could that mean for national security?
So, all right, so we'll talk about the hypotheticals. If Russia can penetrate the electrical grid in the United States, it basically takes them being able to get onto air-gapped computer systems, all right, computer systems that are not connected to the internet. That's actually not that difficult, unfortunately, as Iran found out with their nuclear centrifuges. All it really takes is you have to infect one of the computer systems that get plugged in on occasion to the air-gapped systems to infect them. And now you have complete control of the system. You can sabotage it any way you want. In Iran's case, they ended up having their nuclear centrifuges were rapidly spun up and spun down, destroying the centrifuges physically. In our case, it would be very possible for an attacker to actually manage to, set a timer that says, hey, on this date, shut everything off. Now, there are safeguards in place to prevent that, and also at the same time, there's also a little bit of questionability as to whether this actually was Russia state malware. But I'll let others give some thoughts before I go into that a little further.
Yeah, didn't they find out a few hours or even less than that after the fact that Russia didn't actually penetrate the electrical grid, that there was a misstep in the way that they phrased it? The Washington Post, didn't they find out that it actually wasn't?
It was on, I believe, a serviceman's computer, not actually plugged into the main computer running the power plant. But malware exists on just about everyone's computer. It's almost impossible to eliminate. This variant, it could be attributed to Russia or probably a dozen other countries. The concern, what does it do to our electrical system? Well, worst case scenario is all the lights go out and all the refrigeration goes out, and we're walking on the street trying to find something to eat because we can't open cans because no one has a manual can opener anymore.
Which actually happened in the Ukraine.
Correct.
Well, yeah.
Okay, but that's a worst case scenario, same as an EMT spike or whatever. The practicality of this, I think this is just to play into the political mantra that has been going on over the last couple months of we're working on diversion to discredit anything that's going on in the public's eye.
Well, so talking about, diversions and discrediting information. So, they're saying that this was Russia. Okay, well, from some of the sources I've been reading, the two threat actors that they're saying are Russian, they were saying that Cozy Bear has a low confidence association with a Russian intelligence bureau, and Fancy Bear has a medium confidence. All right, so those were the two main threat actors associated with this malware.
What about Fozzie Bear?
So we're saying, okay, so it's probably a coin toss as to whether this is actually Russia or not, but we're going to just say it's Russia. Now, in response to this 50-50 chance, we're going to implement sanctions against Russian diplomats, all right, because the DNC's dirty laundry was aired out in the open. Okay, now, as a federal contractor, I am insulted by this. And here is why I am insulted by this. Because my data was part of the OPM breach, all right? 21 million federal employees and contractors' data completely compromised. They traced it back to China. You know what sanctions they put against China for that? Nothing. So, you're saying the DNC's dirty laundry is more important than the lives and the identities of federal employees and federal contractors?
But
I am very insulted by that.
Doesn't this potentially go to a higher level that on government systems and on things that are of national security, shouldn't they be an isolated network? Truly isolated.
They should be. Unfortunately, at the same time, you have to have system interoperability communications. And at the end of the day, you're always going to have to, plug in that laptop to the isolated network to do maintenance on the power grid, okay? To do maintenance on those air gap devices. There is always a way to get around the air gap There's always a way to get around the isolation. It's just the isolation is just another layer of protection, but it's not a foolproof layer.
You know, I listened to you talk about what Cozy Bear and Fancy Bear, and I come out with copycat.
Yeah.
Kind of go down a little bit to a cat, as in copycat.
Yeah.
How much of this is copycat trying to get the Russians involved, trying to deal with what emails were hacked, what wasn't hacked, who did it, information got out? I can understand all of that. The very point is, around the table and everywhere, we need to come to a consensus and an inclusion that stop pointing the finger to everybody else and let's solve the problem for the United States, for everybody.
Right.
This thing is going off on a tangent that's not healthy for anybody.
Or helpful, for that matter.
Yeah,
it's not
and
helpful.
in the FBI's report, which, you know, I have a copy right here. All right. In the FBI's report, they even said that during some of the attacks, the malicious actors masqueraded as third parties, hiding behind online personas designed to cause the victim to misattribute the source of the attack.
It's so complex. and
So
it's still
right
so
there,
new.
There's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And, you know, I think one of the biggest issues that we have is we're taking this onto an international stage by saying, oh, well, go back to your homeland. When I don't think we necessarily have all the facts and maybe, and I'm not going to accuse, you know, the current president of jumping to conclusions because he's being provided the information from our security agencies. But I think we had a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction without knowing all the competent facts and tracing back and figuring out.
You and I, Mary and Ken, don't know the facts. I think they know a few more facts than we do. And I'm glad to see after a period of time, you know, where we are, where our intelligence agencies are to keep this country safe, to keep everybody safe. No, we don't know what they are, but some of the folks at the top do. That's how, when the different intelligence agencies work for the president, they work for whomever's president. The president makes his or her decisions based on what intelligence they have at the moment and the recommendations that the military and the intelligence agencies give. So I think we're making this too political. And let's deal with it as far as what safety of the country is.
Right.
It just seems like a lot of people in the United States are basically looking for evidence to point back to the fact that Russia had some kind of an influence in the outcome of the election, and they're using this as that evidence, even though there really is not much evidence, especially for the outcome of the presidential election. You know, them being involved.
Right, and at the end of the day, we're just ignoring the actual problem in that, yes, we have security vulnerabilities in our national infrastructure. We are ignoring the problem that, yes, there were corrupt emails in the DNC hack.
Bingo.
Okay, we shouldn't be focusing on who was responsible for the hacking. We should just be responsible for fixing the actual problem.
So someone in the IT field, how do you fix the actual problem? I mean, we're talking about cleaning hundreds of thousands of computers of potential malware. I remember one company I worked for, their corporate email system got a virus in it.
Well,
and they couldn't eliminate the virus without shutting down everything.
And unfortunately, you know, all right, I'm going to quote another movie. I'm getting infamous for this. To quote Alien, nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. All right. So now I'm not saying actually nuke the computers, but wipe them clean. Completely wipe them. Start over fresh. Make sure they're actually secured. That's one of the biggest problems we have in this country is we don't have all of our security patches installed. We don't have up-to-date antivirus. We don't have up-to-date firewalls. All right? We have organizations in the federal government failing at basic security 101, and we need to fix it.
All right, I'm going to give you the last word on that, Ken. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
I'll let you run with it.
All righty. Up next, our panel weighs in on Governor Hogan's major overhaul for state contracting processes. We're back in 3 minutes.